Monday, August 19th, 2024. Please call the roll.
Mayor Coos, Mrs. Lorenz,
Here.
Ms. Harris,
Here.
Mr. Byers, Ms. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Preston,
Here.
Mr. McCarthy.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have no request for public comment about the agenda items, so we'll move on to the Omnibus vote agenda. The Omnibus vote agenda is comprised of items considered to be routine in nature and will be taken as one vote unless there are members that wish to pull an item from the agenda to discuss separately. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Great.
What was the motion?
Great. Anybody have anything? All right. I'll read all those things. On the Omnibus vote tonight, we have approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting of August 14th, 2024. August 5th, 2024. A report to receive and file town of normal expenditures for payment as of August 14th, 2024. A resolution waiving the formal bidding process and authorizing the purchase of refuse containers from Schaefer Systems International Incorporated in the amount of $28,974. We have a resolution authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Bloomington, McLean County, the Bloomington Normal Water Reclamation District, and the McLean County Soil and Water Conservation District for the administration and implementation of the McLean County Watersheds Management Program. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy.
Aye, and the omnibus vote passes intact. Moving on to our general orders for this evening. We have item number 7, the ordinance rezoning property in the town of Normal, the southwest corner of Shelbourne and the Constitution Trail.
Move approval.
Second.
Move in a second. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy.
Aye, and the item passes. Item 8, an ordinance rezoning property in the town of Normal, the northeast corner of Orlando and Northbrook, 638 Orlando, 1500 Northbrook.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion on the item? Please. Ms. Smith.
Just for clarification purposes, this is the section along the trail that a church had owned and they transferred it to the town, or am I confusing it with another?
That was the item previous.
Oh.
This one is over on Orlando and
Thank you.
Northbrook, west of Main Street. Yep.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Byers.
Aye.
Ms. Smith. Mr. Preston.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz.
Aye.
Ms. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy.
Aye, and that motion carries. Item number 9, a resolution approving a site plan for a fire station on the northeast corner of Hershey and Shepherd Road.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion on the item?
Do you have one?
Ms.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to take a moment to introduce a little bit of this. Both this particular item and the next one are related. What we're asking council to do is approve the site plan for fire station, which will be new fire station number 2 This has been years in the works. I did, my comments will flow between this particular site plan approval and the actual construction item, which is the next agenda item. Council knows that we acquired this land a few years ago, 4 years ago, I believe, actually almost 5, and then rezoned the site. And we've been in the process of planning this. We were held up for a while we waited for state grant funding that was allocated to us and supported by former State Representative Dan Brady, and that took a while to get through the state process and get the funds. So we're finally ready to go. And so we're excited to get this project going. As council knows, this is step 2 of a 3-step fire station relocation plan. We're asking for council approval. Council has been involved in this for years, unfortunately, because it's taken us a while to get to this point. But as you know, we have had some neighborhood meetings. We've had a project team working on this, and so we're very pleased to finally get to the site plan approval stage. Of course, this went to the Planning Commission at their most recent meeting in early August. We have Ms. Davison and Mr. Trummel here if council has any questions pertaining specifically to the site plan.
Ms. Lorenz, and then Ms. Smith.
So in the report for these items, not to delve too far deep into it tonight, but since it was referenced in the reports, I do want to call attention to what next. It was briefly brought up about the soon-to-be vacated College and Blair Station, and then our next move for the relo of Station 3. While these are not pertinent to the site plan, they were referenced in the report because there's definite chain events that will happen as a result of tonight's vote. My comment about it is that, we're acting on a plan that was put together and approved about 10 years ago. And I just want to raise up the need that I see to ensure that our staff prepares us as council to be assured of any changes in assumptions that underpin that 2014 plan. Put it another way, can we take some time, perhaps over the next year, to make sure that the assumptions that went into that 2014 plan are still relevant to our community's growth, relevant to increased activity at Rivian, relevant to increased mental health issues, relevant to traffic patterns, and just to make sure that as we move forward into those next cascading decisions, that we're operating on valid assumptions. So a statement of an interest and a request that staff review that. They perhaps maybe already are, but then to bring that forward to us as we face those subsequent decisions.
Absolutely, as we always would. The council is probably aware, for those of you that have been on council for quite some time, when the plan was adopted, we did not identify the location of future Station 3. We knew it needed to be relocated. So at the point where we define a location for future Station 3, that of course would go into an analysis of where our calls are coming from, where we've grown, how long it takes to respond to calls for service. As council knows, this is a data-driven decision. It's based on calls for service and how long it takes to get there. So we've taken a lot of steps, even in the last 10 years since the plan was developed, to make improvements even on our apparatus. As a reminder for the audience, every piece of equipment that goes out, engines, trucks, or ambulances, all are ALS equipped. That's so anybody can go on a call. Ambulances do the transport, but anyone can respond to a call. So that's a significant change from 2012, 2013, 2014 when the data was originally collected. So lots of things to look at. And as every year when we lay out our plans, we look at data. So
Okay, and follow up then, I'm glad to hear we're, I think, on the same page on that. When you say data driven, will drive the relocation for Station 3, will that be an amendment to the 2014 study, or will that be, tell me more about that. Will that be a new study, or will that?
I'm going to ask you to hold off on process for the next, because we are talking about
Okay.
a site plan for this one. I appreciate the question, and
Yeah,
I think
just
that's
trying to
value.
clarify if.
I'm not sure we have process yet for that. So,
let me
but it's a
rephrase
valid
my
question. I agree,
Right.
but not for tonight, if we can.
Okay. I'm just wanting to clarify, I think, something that Ms. Reese said. So, is it that you're saying that the decisions for relocation of Station 3 and what to do with the vacated facility on College and Blair will be subject to a quantitative analytical review? Is that a fair statement?
yes, I can't imagine that we would have to redo a plan from 10 years ago to look at, where headquarters and everyone is going separately. We don't have to do a whole plan.
Right.
We
Which is
have
why I said the
data.
word
We know
amendment.
how long it takes to respond to calls for service, and we know the apparatus we have. So we will look at all the information we have and come to council with a recommendation about where to go in the future with
Okay.
future Station 3. So everything is based on calls for service and how long it takes to get there.
At the risk of going too far down process, will that be in the next year, or when do you see that happening?
I certainly would be within a year for
Okay.
sure.
All right. That's as far as I'll go. Thank you.
Ms. Smith.
I do have some details from that 2014 study. If you would prefer, I can hold them until we get into the construction, or add them now.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, you were trying to limit the
Keep it on
discussion.
the topic, yeah,
Yes.
is the idea. Not too far into the future. I appreciate the generalized questions, but the
Well,
down-end process, let's
No,
hold
it's
those
just
for
that-
another time if we can.
I made the request of Ms. Reese to obtain a copy of the 2014 study, and I can confirm that the population it was based on, it was 2010, had normal with the population of 52,772, and our 2020 census was 52,736. So population-wise, we haven't changed that much. And as she pointed out, it was the bulk of it surrounded the response times, and there were multiple analyses of when under different scenarios did the response time improve. So I don't think that there has been that much that has changed dramatically since that study was completed. But on the site plan, I did want to highlight also that this site plan does provide the public parking and then the ability to access the adjacent detention basin and trail. So there will be some public use provided to anyone that wants to avail themselves of that amenity.
If I could jump in, I appreciate council's comments and kind of the what next, I guess, focus of the conversation. But back to the site plan, I do want to point out, as we've indirectly talked about, and it is identified in the report, this particular site significantly enhances and improves our calls for service to Northeast Normal. Council knows that Meadows at Mercy Creek, for example, when that property was annexed quite some time ago, we identified even in the annexation agreement that we highlighted for them that we couldn't get there in standardized response times. So this has been an issue of concern for years, being able to respond in a timely, acceptable manner to Normal Community High School, Meadows at Mercy Creek, any of the residential subdivisions out there is great enhancement to our service. And so we're excited to move forward. In terms of the items highlighted in this council report, I think you'll note that we are trying to create a public space and a public facility for our operations that will be a good neighbor to our Blackstone Trails residents. So we are recognizing that not everybody was thrilled to have a fire station so close, but we also are adding significant amount of landscaping. We want to be a good neighbor. We think this is a good solution and a facility that everyone will be proud of.
Mr. Preston.
Thanks. Looking around the table here, it hit me that I believe Mr. McCarthy and I were the only two still around who were there when this 2014 plan originally began. Or close to, yeah. And harking back to that time and how this process all came together, I want to pick up on what Ms. Reese just said. It was very important to me and a lot of us that as we underwent this, we balanced the need to significantly improve response times to east of Veterans Parkway. If I'm not mistaken, I believe at the time they were like 9.5 minutes to some parts, Normal Community, Eastview, Mercy Creek, and standard is less than half of that. And so being able to address that glaring need to have response times that are much more conducive to, helping the people who are on the other end of those calls, with the fact that this site is bordering a residential neighborhood, was something that we were intentional about from the start. And I think that there are a lot of examples of that as we look at the specifics here, be it from lighting and lighting being, shielded or whatever the technical term would be on one side so that glare doesn't extend toward the neighborhood, be it landscaping, be it, the orientation of the building as it relates to the dumpster, and like a lot of things that I wouldn't think about necessarily for being a good neighbor. Also reducing the overall square footage footprint of the facility from what it could have been, while, looking at some efficiencies to be able to still provide the same service, but do so in a smaller footprint. All of those, I think, were intentional and a good, good faith effort to be as good of neighbors as possible, while also serving those neighbors and the folks down the road, in any direction on the east side of Veterans there. So I'm happy with this. I'm pleased with this, and I am glad that we are finally at a point to get this thing going.
Second bite, Ms. Lorenz.
Thank you. I want to reiterate that I was here in 2015, I think, when we took the first vote on this, and want to make sure not to be misunderstood that this action tonight is needed without a shadow of a doubt for all the reasons that Mr. Preston just said. So I'm not in any way casting doubt on that. I'm really not casting doubt on anything. I just want to make sure that as we now begin to move into the next phase, and that the points were raised in the report about the next couple of big decisions we have to make based on that 2014 plan, is what to do with the vacated college in Blair and where to begin to identify land for that relocated third station. And those are the things that I was raising up for awareness, at the risk of perhaps getting too far down the road. But it was brought up in the report, and so I took that opportunity. Thanks.
I'll just lend my support. I appreciate, Mr. Preston, your historical summary of sorts. And I certainly have been asked in the weeks and months before this about fire stations and the moves and why and the history, and because it has taken us a while to get to this point, and thrilled to see that we're here and improving safety and response times to Northeast Normal, a seminal goal, as Mr. Preston pointed out. And just to remind everybody that, the whole process started with a big data involved map, heat map, if you will. I remember the big, and all the calls plotted on the chart and pointing out to us where the service calls were and where we were lacking in our ability to respond in any kind of a standard that we felt comfortable with and that meets national standards for what we're trying to do here in the town of Normal. And certainly, the site was selected and there were some concerns in those neighborhoods and I know staff went a long way and council listened as best that we could to those residents to try to do everything we could in site design and landscaping and building orientation, all the things Mr. Preston said to do it. And so it's been a long process. Hopefully the neighbors and the community see all the effort that's gone into this, and we're going to have a really good outcome and a safer corridor on the Northeast. And I'm thrilled about this. Please call the roll.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy.
Aye. The proposal passes. Moving on to item 10, a resolution approving an amendment to design build contract with Core Construction Services of Illinois, Inc. for the construction of a fire station and approving an associated budget adjustment.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Reese?
I will just do some quick introductory comments about this. As indicated earlier, this is kind of step 2 of our 2-step process this evening regarding getting the construction of future Fire Station 2 underway. And the council entered into a contract with Core Construction last year for design build, and we appreciate the partnership with Core. They're represented here tonight, and they've partnered with Farnsworth Group, who's also represented and provide architectural services. The project team, consisting of staff, fire administration, firefighters, and lieutenants, all identified in the report. So it's been a group effort to get to this point. What we're asking council on this particular action is to amend the contract we have with Core Construction to reflect the actual bid price to get this thing constructed. So Core has, as part of the design build process, they have finalized design, put it out for bid, and come in with final numbers. So we now need to incorporate the final construction cost into the Core contract in the amount of $7,727,484. And because that does exceed our original budget, we're asking council's action to include an associated budget adjustment. Funds are available in our fire station construction line. We have a fire station construction fund. There are funds available for this cost amendment, and so staff recommends approval. With council's approval tonight, then Core will get going with construction soon, this fall.
Discussion. Whoops, please call the roll.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Byers?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye, and that proposal carries. Moving on to item 11, a resolution conditionally approving an amended site plan for 100 North Rivian Motorway.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion on this item. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Byers?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye, and that item passes. We have no items of new business. We do have some public commenters requesting to speak. We have a Mr. Landon Davis. Mr. Davis, are you here with us? One more time, Landon Davis. Okay. And next on our list is Mike Brown. There he is. Yep, come on up, Mr. Brown. Just a reminder of the ground rules. If you would speak into the mic, any one of those chairs, the mic should be live. Tell us your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Quick mic check. Yep. All right. My name is Mike Brown. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep it pretty short. So I just wanted to come before the council today to kind of give you guys a preview of something that's probably going to be coming in front of you later on. So this is related to the Collie Ridge subdivision. If you all remember a while back, there was a proposal for a development there on the corner of Beach and Shelbourne. Well, that got pulled off the agenda because I don't think they were aware there was a restricted use land covenant governing that property. Well, I get a letter from Livingston, Barger, Brandt, and Schroeder. They represent the Collie Ridge LLC. And, it's funny you guys were talking about being good neighbors. Sorry, kind of all over the place here. But, it doesn't appear to me these guys are being very good neighbors, because rather than abiding by what the different clauses state in this covenant, they took a pretty laughably loose interpretation of one of these clauses, typically used by a builder to say, any one particular lot that can't go by like the restrictions, like the setback or the size, it might be a unique corner lot or something like that. They want to waive all of the restrictions, period, for a 19.5 acre piece of property, which seems to me not really the intention of this, but they've already filed it with the McLean County Recorder's Office. So kind of having the bigger bank account is working in their favor, because me and my neighbors, we're not going to have the financial means to challenge this. So my purpose of coming here today was just to basically say, I hope that as opposed to, considering these folks like a champion of the housing crisis, maybe you'll take a closer look at, how they're really treating the citizens in Normal, Illinois and your voters. And, maybe not make it, I guess I don't exactly know what what I want you to do, other than just consider a second point of view. I understand that some development needs to happen. We do have a shortage of housing. But rather than working with the folks who live in that area to come to some sort of happy medium, they just kind of went around that and are just trying to abandon all of the protective covenants that are in the original document. So that's really all I had. But I'd be happy to share these documents or talk to any one of you or all of you about it if you wanted some more information or some more transparency into it. So I don't know, anybody who wants me to, I could shoot them an email, give them my contact information, and be happy to elaborate on it. But that's all I got. Thank you so much for your time.
Before adjourning, do we have any council comments or concerns? Ms. Smith and Mr. Preston?
I had interposed the 2 items on the agenda, and I just wanted to highlight that the southwest corner of Shelburne and Constitution Trail that the church sold to the town for $100. The plan is to pursue drainage work on that site, but I wanted to highlight that will have to go out to bid first, but the project completion for hopefully making a major improvement in the drainage attributed to that site is targeted for spring of 2025, and I overlooked mentioning it during the proper agenda item. So I just wanted to make sure I could highlight that. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Thanks. Just a quick note, every year around this time, there is an uptick in energy and activity and population in the town of Normal as we welcome back all of our students, but certainly those at ISU in the largest numbers. So we're glad to have them back. They bring a irreplaceable energy, I think, to this community and a vibrancy, and wish everybody a good year ahead.
Are you? Yes, Miss Harris? No? Yes.
And you went out of order this time. I always go first because I always know that Mr. Preston's going to welcome back ISU. But I always welcome or at least say to our Unit 5 students, have a great year. I know many of you, it's been a little weird this year because usually we have our meeting before the kickoffs to the Promise Council. So this is a little late, but it's been a pleasure to meet some of you already. Usually I always say I'm going to see you out there as I welcome you back into your classrooms in Unit 5. So have a great year.
I'm just going to add that it is that time of year. We welcome back the McLean County Household Hazardous Waste Collection event, and that's coming back on September 28th. Once again, this year appointments are required to drop off your household hazardous waste, and all those details and signups are available on hhwmclean.org. So go check it out. If you've got things in the garage or the shed that you're not sure what to do with, they'll help you dispose of all of those kind of things. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Oh, sorry.